All right, everybody. Well, thank you again for joining us today. We've got an amazing panel, and we're going to get a peek behind the curtain of what other agents are doing at their listing consultations. It's not something that we get to see very often. We're all kind of siloed off in our own businesses, doing our own things. A lot of us attend similar trainings. So some of us may have been taught the same thing, but the way you carry yourself, the conversations you have, the highlight points that you get to are all a little bit different. So I want to thank the three of you for joining us today and sharing what it is that you do, because it's going to mean a lot to all the agents in our office that kind of get that insight now. Okay, this is how some other top producers are doing it. And just so you guys know, we couldn't have put together a better panel when it comes to education. We've got Megan, who is our ALC chair for education. And we've got Wayne here, who has been teaching for a while and is now KW certified. Yep. And we've got Gary that is, I'm taking Gary's role today. He's usually the host of panels like this and has been, right, and has been training in the brokerage for quite some time now. And you guys are all running your businesses at a high level. And what I know from each of you is you guys are great at connecting with people. And I think that's one of the best things that you can have when you're sitting across the table from a potential client is, how do I make that connection? So not only are they going to talk about how they're focusing on making the connections, but also a little bit about, like, these are the focus points that I'm looking for in a listing consultation and what I want to make sure that we get out of it. And so overall, just as a quick question to kind of start, do you guys have something in mind when you have now booked your appointment? We're going to go through the whole process, hopefully from beginning to end. I might jump around a little bit, but when you know you have a consultation booked, do you have like an overall roadmap of what you're trying to make sure is going to make this a successful appointment? Do you have a general rule for what that looks like? And Wayne, I see you nodding your head, so I'm going to go to you first.
Okay, sure.
Is there something that you're looking to, that you know that if I just focus on these couple of points, I'm probably going to do well at this meeting today?
So everything that we built, there's a great book by John Maxwell that's everybody communicates, but few people connect. It's based on that book, and basically, and you can use it for buyers or sellers.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's asking three things when you sit in front of them. Can I trust you? Can you help me? And what's the other one? Do you care for me?
Yeah.
So when we built out our listing presentation, all of it was designed to answer those three questions.
Love that.
Because I think if everything you do answers one of those questions, then that is our roadmap.
Yeah.
That's what we did for.
Beautiful. That's a great roadmap. Megan, why don't you jump in there?
For me, I have found over the years that the most important thing is that I'm very, very well prepared.
Oh, I love that.
I have lost listings because I haven't been well prepared, or I've gone rushing in, and people can sense that. I need to go in very prepared. Yeah. And the other thing I say to myself is that I earn a lot of money. I'm always amazed at what I earn in commission. And I say, you just have to do one lease to know how much we earn. And, in one commission, we could earn half of what another person spends half a year earning. And so I must show my worth to people.
Yeah.
I must show that I'm worth every penny that they will eventually give to me.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so important. And showing up prepared, as you mentioned, is one of the best ways that you can do that. On a quick aside, our team got invited back to a lead that we had met at an open house a little while ago, like last summer. And we've now got their listing and all that's going great. We're helping them shop. But we asked when we sat down at the table, just out of curiosity, because you've told us you kept looking at open houses with listing agents the rest of the summer. Just curious, how come we got invited back to the table today? We're so grateful to be here. And they said, you know what? You'd be surprised how many agents couldn't answer basic questions about the house that they were trying to sell. They were constantly trying to sell me something other than the house that they were in, and we just didn't connect with them. But you guys were able to answer all the questions that we asked. You genuinely seemed prepared versus the other agents. So I love that you brought that up today, because it's true. Gary, is there anything that you're going into that consultation, into that appointment, that you're like, this is my goal? I know everybody wants to get that contract signed, but what are you trying to make sure that you convey when you're sitting across from the sellers?
I think the big thing for me is I'm asking myself this question is, how can I connect? And I'm looking for ways to connect. That's my entire first hour there.
Yeah.
and I'm not there for 5 hours, trust me. I'm there for about an hour and a half, depending on the conversation.
Yes.
And that's really based on poor experiences that I've provided.
Interesting. Can you expand on that just for a second? Because it's great to learn what we should do. If you're sharing a moment, don't do this. I think everybody can benefit from that as well. So when you say like a poor experience, what brought you now to being like, I need to make sure I connect in 2/3 of the appointment, essentially?
Yeah, exactly. So I think at the beginning, I was, I had a lot of easy success, which means you get, or I get, I should say, I liked my ego,
Yeah.
right? So then you go in, okay, how fast can I get this signed to move on to the next one? And it became transactional apart, and which is the absolute worst thing,
Yes.
in my opinion, that we can do, right? And then that shows up after you sign the contract. Then an issue arises, and then you're in trouble because you can't handle that issue. Whereas if I had built rapport and connected, we wouldn't have had any of these conversations, right? So being able to connect is the biggest goal that I have. And I think of, typically we attract like-minded people.
Mhm.
And there's some sellers we're working with, and I'm thinking to myself, if outside of real estate, we're not friends, like we are not connecting on any which way. However, some people, what I've realized is some people have that mechanism of negativity because they don't know what to say.
Okay.
So it's being able to navigate what that looks like as well, because most of I'm the opposite of negativity. I'm the
Yeah.
glass is half full and there's a little bit more coming. And just being able to realize that, and there's a lot of KW courses and John Maxwell and everybody else that allows you to sit down and figure out the type of person that you're talking. You got to know your audience,
Yes.
right? And that's the biggest piece. That's why it takes much longer than an hour to build rapport, but you need to invest that time into building rapport.
Yeah, I agree. And to maybe play devil's advocate to that for a moment, there are some times that you can connect quite quickly with people, right? Like if you come open and you guys maybe have something in common, you've discovered about who they are because of your pre-qualification on the phone, you'd be surprised how sometimes all of a sudden it's like, wow, we're really hitting this off and we haven't even hit the kitchen table yet, right? So it is one of those things, like if you focus on it, and depends on who they are, right? Because like you said, if you're dealing with somebody that is maybe a little bit more naturally negative, kind of leans to that way, you got to break down the wall just a little bit, right? And so we're going to get to some of that rapport building that we talked about, right, Megan? So now let's jump back to something practical, okay? You've now booked your first appointment, or you've booked the appointment, you've done your lead generation, we're set up for next Tuesday. What is it that you guys focus on doing between now and the appointment? And as well, what does your pre-qualification look like a little bit in terms of what do you want to make sure you have prior to going on that appointment in regards to information?
I got it, Mike. Okay.
There you go.
Really quickly is we have a sheet, and it's really just a reminder to ask the questions like, will all sellers or all decision makers be at the appointment? I want to make sure that should
decision
be
makers.
question number one.
Yep.
The next is I want to know if they've sold a home before, because usually people have, but usually it's 20 plus years ago. So I'm going to take that as a no.
Yeah.
Right. And then I want a little bit, some pieces about the home, the age of the home. I want them to tell me over the phone, just so I can write it down, so I can have some pieces to put together, as well as, hi, Jonathan, as well as anything they want me to know. Is there anything I should know before coming to meet with you?
I love that question.
Yeah.
Love that question.
There's much more to that, but
We have a very stringent process to how this works because we're a team, and the process is meant to be handed off.
Yeah.
So the lead comes in, and if you have time to do it right then and there, you pre-qualify them. We use the Ninja selling script. It's online. I brought a copy as well, and it's a fantastic script. It is psychologically designed so you ask questions in a particular order, because you want to, when you're doing the pre-qualifying script, you want to get people in ease with you to answering questions.
Yes.
And the pre-qualifying script answers a lot of great questions, all the stuff that you talked about right there. And has like, are all the decision makers made? Well, how much do you think the house is going to be worth? All of those questions.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
Would you mind doing that with Megan real quick, just so we can see how
We can do this.
that rolls
It's
through?
20 questions.
Yeah,
so-
that's okay.
okay.
I don't mind if we go a little bit long on this one. I will
Yeah.
jump in if I feel we're getting off track. But what I'd like them to see is just naturally how you can have this sheet of paper in front of you
Yeah.
and just roll through the questions to make sure you're getting what you want.
Yep.
And ultimately, if you're just starting out and you don't have these skills yet, let's just get that piece of paper in front of us and walk through it.
Well, here's the thing, you're in your office, and if the lead comes in and you just say to them, hey, listen, I'm in the car right now. I'm going to call you back in 5 or 10 minutes or half an hour, whatever it might be. And then you pull out your sheet and you say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you know what, Megan, thank you so much for contacting me earlier today. I do have a couple of questions to ask you, so I can better prepare for our appointment later today. Do you have like 5 or 10 minutes
That's
we can go
fine.
through it?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Now I've got your name. What is the address of your home?
308 Brimson Drive,
308
Newmarket.
Brimson. Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Now, when I come out to meet you, will all the decision makers be at the meeting?
Do they have to be there? Like, can it just be me?
It's best if everybody's there. Do you have a spouse, significant other who's also on title?
Okay, I will check if he's around.
Yeah, it's important that you both be there because both decision makers, because you know what's going to happen? We're going to go through all this stuff. And then your husband's going to come home. He's going to say, well, did you ask him about this? Did you ask him about that? And you're going to say, no, I forgot that. And so the best thing is that everybody be there. So, all right.
Okay,
So we'll just make
okay.
sure that we book the appointment, that
Okay.
everyone's there. Does
Okay,
that make sense to you?
that's okay.
Okay, perfect. So how come, what's got you guys making a move?
We just want to downsize. We've been in our house for 20 years and it's time for us to go to a bungalow.
A bungalow. Perfect. Okay, that's awesome. When would you like to be there?
I don't know, maybe by the end of the year.
End of the year. So before, like you'd like to be in by Christmas.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect.
if
could
you can find us something we like.
Okay, awesome. We can find that. That's not a problem. Can you describe your house for me? What's the size? How many bedrooms?
Typical family house. It's got 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. It's a typical Newmarket house.
Do you know the size of it?
Oh, what was it about? Maybe 2,800 square feet?
Okay, perfect. And is it 2-story?
2-story.
Okay. Do you know your lot size?
No.
No? Okay. Finished basement?
Yeah, we finished it.
Okay, perfect. When you bought the house, what did you love about it?
We loved the fact that it was close to the school
Mhm.
and that it backed onto the park. Backs onto a beautiful park.
Nice. Okay, your kids were playing there all the time.
Mhm.
And have you done any work on it since you bought the house?
Yeah, we finished the basement
Okay.
and we've redone the kitchen. And we're at the stage where we don't want to put any more money into it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you were to stay in the house for another 5 years, what work would you do on the property?
I think the ensuite bathroom would need to be done.
Gotcha.
And we don't want to spend the 50,000.
Yeah, it's expensive to do bathrooms. these days,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
We'll just price it accordingly. Now, for a moment, I'm going to ask that you, pretend that you're a buyer when you're walking through your property. Pages stop. Normally I would have these, they wouldn't be stuck. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your house?
Say it's about a 7.
A 7.
Yeah.
Okay. And what would make it a 10? The finish-
Oh, I'd need to get rid of a lot of junk.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of stuff is in the house. And I've been talking about decluttering for a long time. So do you help with that kind of thing?
Absolutely. Yeah, we can help you with all of
Yeah,
that. And we'll
because-
run through all of that when we meet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think it's a lot of work.
So other than the bathroom you mentioned need to be fixed up, what else would you need to do to make it a 10?
Well, I love crazy colors. So, and I know that's not very fashionable. So probably paint.
Eight, okay.
Mhm.
Okay. How much do you think your house is worth? What do you think?
Oh, I think it's worth 1.5 million.
1.5.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Good.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Do you own your house clear? Is there a
Yes.
mortgage on it?
No
Okay.
mortgage.
Okay, perfect. All right. Are you speaking to any other realtors?
Well, there's a neighbor on our street and we've got a couple of friends who are in real estate.
Okay.
But I kind of like you, but you've got to convince my husband.
Okay. He's the hard one, isn't he?
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Have you set appointments with any of those people yet?
We've been talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah, we'll see how it goes with you first.
Okay, great. Sounds good. Have you ever thought about selling the house yourself?
Oh, it looks so easy. and we could save so much, and we could save so much money. And by the way, how much do you charge?
Talk about all that when we meet.
Okay, okay, yeah. Maybe that's what we should do. We should just sell it ourselves.
So it's an option. And have you sold, when was the last time you sold a property?
We sold we had 5 houses as a married couple. So it's been a while, maybe 20 years.
Okay. I'm gonna jump in real quick. Wayne, is there any other question on there that you'd want to make sure that somebody asked? I gotta say, I love that when you ask them, what's the one thing that you love about your home?
Right.
What do you love about your home when you first bought it? Like, let's start tying into the good features that we have. It also warms them up a little bit. Everybody likes to brag a little bit about what they have, right? So is there anything else on there that you'd love to add?
It was almost done. Is there anything else I need to know about? And do you have any questions for me? And that, other than that, it is avoid the commission question altogether. We're going to talk about that, and don't get bogged down in any of the answers. When Megan said, maybe we should sell ourselves. Maybe you should.
Maybe you should.
Move right along.
Move right on.
Keep asking.
Yeah, I love that you kept moving to like, that's great. We're going to discuss this in detail at the appointment. And it is so important to make sure that all the decision makers are there so that, one, you don't need to explain it twice and that questions aren't missed. I loved how you went into that and say, like, you might miss some if your partner isn't there, right? And at the same point, what we know is that who's better to convey our value than ourselves? If we're relying on somebody else to be able to pitch our value to the other decision maker, we're in trouble.
I've never taken a listing without both people there. I don't know if you guys have.
No.
I've never heard.
Yeah.
I mean,
But you've never gone to the appointment even. Yeah.
I've gone to the appointment,
Okay, yeah.
but I've never walked away with the listing, because what typically happens is I'm the check. I'm the price
That's
check,
right.
or
Yeah.
I'm the guy where the decision maker has already decided who they're going to list the home with.
Right.
And
just
I'm
want
the,
your
this is
number.
the decision maker placating the person who's not the decision maker. Where it's like, yeah, well, I still want to have Wayne in, whereas the wife has decided, hey, I'm listing with X. But the husband's like, well, I really want to meet with Wayne. She's like, go ahead and meet with Wayne. I don't care what you do.
Yeah.
Right. And then he meets, and then they list with X. Right. So yeah.
Now, Megan, as you're going through your pre-qualification there, is there anything specific that you want to make sure that you're covering? Like, obviously, everybody can now, we'll share the Ninja selling scripts that you guys can go through the checklist. But is there anything specific that you want to make sure you get so that you feel prepared for when you're at the appointment?
If I can start to just touch a little bit on their motivation.
Mhm.
To me, the motivation question, why do they want to sell, is for me the biggest question.
Yeah.
And I've lost listing appointments because I underestimated how urgently they wanted to sell.
Yes.
And I've also lost listing appointments because I overestimated how quickly I thought they wanted to sell me while they were just tire kicking.
Yeah.
That motivation question is really important. Why do you want to do this? And when do you want to do it by? And what will you gain if you do it?
Yes.
To really tap into that. And sometimes they won't disclose that easily. They need to trust you first.
Yes.
That's the biggest question.
It is kind of funny that we need to be able to articulate our value enough that people buy into it before they experience it sometimes, right? So it is kind of a tricky situation, but I love the idea of making sure that you understand what's important to them, what their motivation is, and then matching that and matching their timeline.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if I was able to bring you a buyer to sell your house tomorrow, is there anything that would stop you from selling?
Yeah.
Right? And if we inevitably, well, we need somewhere to go first, or no, we want to wait till the kids are out of school. Like, you're going to find your true, I guess, motivations and potential hurdles by asking those types of questions, right? Gary, anything else that you want to make sure that you get on that pre-qualification prior to going to the appointment?
I don't want to glaze over what Wayne, and you brought it up, what Wayne was asking is along the lines of, when you bought the home, what did you love most about it? There's a pure psychological event that happens in the brain when that question's asked. And it gets like, in this situation, Megan got all excited about the home, and that's the energy you want to pull out.
Yes.
Right. And you want to ask that question almost again when you're there in person, because there's nothing that can replace this, like that knee to knee type of conversation, and get people to get into that almost like that dream zone, that future, this is what my future life could look like with this sale of the home. Because now we get to move into that bungalow and stop walking up and down to everything, whatever that is. Right.
Yeah.
So really focus on that positivity, because that's going to help you with that rapport. Forget about closing and all that kind of stuff. That's just going to help you with the rapport.
Yeah.
Which is that stepping stone to the next part of the conversation.
Yeah, I think living in that same philosophy with where they're going, let them future dream a little bit about
Oh,
what
yeah.
they're getting excited for.
Yeah.
Right. And then that'll help you as well figure out how you can serve them because they're telling you, this is what I'm excited about. You need to help me find this. All right, next question. So you've kind of got what you've got the information you're looking for. You're preparing for the appointment. So what do you typically bring on your listing consultations? What do you bring with you material wise?
So I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm actually going to do 2 appointments. And for those that know me, I'll go in for the first appointment and I'll spend less than 30 minutes. Really, it's about 15 minutes. And I physically want to see the home so I can put together a proper CMA. And that's based on poor experience as well. However, then I get to walk through it. And the way that I set that conversation up, we've all probably used the same conversation. I'd love to come preview your home and walk through it as a buyer would see it for the first time. And what's really fun with that conversation is you walk through it and you do it by yourself. You don't want Megan, the home seller, walking through the home because she's gonna tell you all about how they painted that kid's bedroom because the blue was their favorite color because they love everything else, right?
All the
You
distractions.
don't care.
Yeah.
Because a buyer doesn't care.
Yes.
And you got to be able to convey that. And the fun part is typically at the second conversation or the second meeting, they're a little bit nervous of what you think of their home. And that allows you to build some rapport. You can kind of have some fun with it. What do I bring? So I do that. I bring, obviously, I do our CMA in 2 parts. One is the how we sell homes, so the marketing piece. And the second is the actual CMA. Here's the comps that are around us, and we're going to go through that. That's in the physical booklet that I leave behind.
Beautiful.
I have some stats in it,
Yeah.
and our value proposition really is all based on what I talked about in the marketing presentation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Wayne, what about you? Anything additionally that you bring on top of like?
We
the-
also do a 2-step.
You're
So
two-stepper,
on the
okay.
first, same thing as Gary. I'm
Yeah.
not spending a lot of time in the property. It's 15 minutes and it's, I
Beautiful.
just want to see it. I want to make notes. I want to get an age on the shingles and all that stuff so I can do a proper CMA because when it comes down to pricing, if you get that objection about the other agent said that it was going to be worth X, it's, did they actually take the time to look at it? I cannot actually do a CMA sitting at a table once I've walked through somebody's
It's
house
tough.
and make all the
Yeah.
I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And I tell people that I'm physically incapable of doing it.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's so important, like other than these inclining markets where, you've listed it, whatever, pricing is 99.9% of marketing.
Yeah.
Right. And you need to spend the time to do that and you need the stats. So first is a walkthrough. I bring a pre-list package. So it's a nicely bound thing. It has our stats in it. It has a welcome letter. And it has the service guarantee. So it's got some stuff in it. All that stuff is about us and our value to the client.
Yes.
So then when we go back to the client, I start off with rapport building questions. So we do a bunch of different questions. I do a high level economic overview of the market, like months of inventory, all the way down to their particular style of home. Then we have a PowerPoint we go through.
Okay.
And then we do the CMA in the back end.
Okay.
We've learned from experience, you don't start with the CMA because if they don't like your price, you're dead.
The meeting's over.
You're dead.
Yeah.
Because you've built no trust and you've dropped, you want 1.5 and I'm telling you, you got 1.2, our meeting's over.
Yeah.
Before we get to the point where Megan trusts me enough that she said, you can see that I'm on her side and I've done my homework. So the CMA comes at the end.
Okay, I love that. Yeah. Megan, are you a 1-step or a 2-step in terms of your listing consultation?
Unless I'm very sure, then it's 2 steps.
2 steps.
And
Okay.
the thing that I do between the first and the second step is I actually try to take the person into the listing, a listing nearby.
Oh, nice.
So maybe one on the street, the neighbor's house, and I'll say to them, I'm due to come to you at 7. Would you like to pop in at 7:15 and we go and have a look at the neighbor's house? And I find that it does a lot of the heavy lifting, especially around what I know is coming down the road around the CMA. Because when they see how the neighbor's house is staged, and I mean, I'm careful with what I choose, but I see how the neighbor's house is staged and how they price it, I don't need to say very much. They stand in that lobby and they work it out themselves.
Yeah.
And I find it makes it easier for me in the long run because the price question, I feel, saves you a lot of pain down the road. You have to deal with it in that listing appointment because otherwise you will be eating that thing. in 3 months when you've overpriced something and you haven't sold it. So it's worth taking the time.
I love that. You're educating them by walking them through it
Yeah.
as well. So they're seeing firsthand what you're seeing as well.
Yeah.
So to recap there, most of our panel is looking at 2 steps to make sure that they have the time and the information so that they're reviewing it, and you're not now judging what your CMA was that maybe you worked out beforehand after what you've seen in the house. Sure, you can look up some stuff online, but maybe it's been a while since that one is sold. Now you're under the gun. You're likely to be influenced by what they're looking for if you didn't take that time separately to prepare. Now, I want to keep going with you there, Megan. So now we've got all of our stuff together. We've arrived at the house. And what we've all kind of talked about already is you first start with some rapport building. You're not jumping right into your presentations or your CMAs that we now know we like to keep on the back end. What are you generally doing to help build some rapport as you enter their home?
Ask a lot of questions, and I find really pay attention to their answers and really watch body language. You need to hear what they are telling you. And sometimes they don't necessarily tell you with their words, and to make notes. And so I sometimes, every listing appointment's a bit different. I try and read the personality, but I have treated it like a business meeting. And sometimes I have an agenda and I give them the agenda, and I come prepared with exactly what commission I'm going to charge them. And I lead the conversation and not lead the conversation at the beginning, but I raise the topic of commissions. I don't wait for them to bring it.
I love that.
I take charge of that conversation. And I know what I'm going to tell them when they ask, when it comes up eventually.
Okay. I love that. I'm going to go down the line here. Wayne, anything else that you're doing when you're trying to focus on building rapport? I know there's a lot of agents. It seems like an easy thing to do, but there's newer agents and people that are out there like, okay, what do I do to actually connect with somebody? I don't want to just go down and be like, here's my papers and I've got my stuff.
Right.
What generally is your vibe when you're going into a house, and how you're carrying yourself in the conversations that you have?
To Megan's point, you're just asking lots of questions.
Yeah.
And so we have a set of questions that we ask every time.
Okay.
And it starts out with the forward. You start with a family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. And then you go into when was the last time you bought and sold a house, and what are your fears about selling a house? What have you done to prepare? How do I win or lose with you? Like, we have a list of probably about 15 or 20 questions that we ask along the way. You're using body language, you're using tonality when you're sitting with them, you're mirror and matching, all of that stuff. Like, that's all, that's important, right? It's a lot of that connecting piece, is that the physiology of the way they speak, and, and looking them in the eye when you're talking to them, and leaning in and actually listening to their answers. And we write everything down. As we're asking the questions, we're taking down the answers. And we even say to them, do you mind if I'm going to make some notes while we do this stuff? That's
you're showing that what they're saying is important to you, that you're genuinely there to find out, and this is why I'm going to take some notes, right?
Well, I think that's the other reason why you got to script them. They don't call it scripting, conversations, right?
Yeah.
You got to have those conversations, because you got to be ready with whatever they're going to bring to you, so that you're in the conversation.
Yeah.
If you're sitting there the whole time thinking about what you're going to say when they say something to you,
Yeah.
you're just glazed over. You're not listening.
We're not listening anymore.
Yeah, they know it.
So we've got a question here from the audience. Jonathan.
Hi, I totally agree with you as far as building rapport is concerned. But how do you navigate when a client says, we're interviewing several people and we don't really have time for you to come in twice? Can you just do everything at this moment, and you're not fully prepared?
Great question.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Great answer.
Tongue in cheek,
Yeah.
but no, to fully provide you with the service that we provide, we need to do two-step. I mumbled that, but anyways, it's important that you stick with your system, right? And there will be people that will push back, but I don't know about you guys. We can all make 1,000 questions in our head that they're going to ask, and they might ask one.
Yeah.
Right? Like an objection handler type thing. It really doesn't come up that often. Or I should say, after you've spent all that time, I shouldn't say all that time, invested that time in building rapport and everything else, a lot of those perceived objections
they fade away.
Go away.
Yeah.
Right? One of the things I wanted to mention, when we do get to an appointment, that second appointment, and we sit down, like what Megan said, do you have an agenda? Yeah, I tell them what we're going to do at this meeting. Here's the objection. or sorry, here's how objective. Thank you.
Yeah.
I knew there was an over. I couldn't find it. Wayne found it for me. Yeah, and it helps set the tone for the conversation, meaning, yeah, here's what we're gonna have, here's what is gonna happen at this meeting. We're gonna look at the CMAs, and I have them all here, and I bring out the booklet and I put it on the table, the dining room table, the kitchen table, and they really want to open it, but I just leave it there. It's kind of teasing them almost for the entire meeting. And I'm gonna share with you how we're gonna sell homes, the tools that we use, and some of the success stories that our clients have had. And you're gonna be able to ask me any questions along the way. So I just kind of set them up. And at the end of the conversation, we're gonna land on a price that makes sense for you to sell your home. And then we just get into it.
Yeah.
Because I'm setting them up for and I don't know about you and Megan, when we finally get to the valuation of the home, I know I'm skipping ahead here, Dylan, but 99% of the time, I never provide the valuation of the home. 100%. I allow the seller, I allow Megan, the seller, to. They work it out. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So to go back to Jonathan's question there, I think it is the simple answer of like, we're going to make sure that we're not deviating from our system, because once you start by playing somebody else's system, you're no longer really providing the value that you would have brought otherwise. And I think simply saying, I'm sorry, we don't do it that way, because if I did, I'd be providing a disservice to you.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And Megan,
Don't let them torpedo your.
I use I did bold twice, and the first bold, there was a bold script with that listing consultation, and it's 3 questions. Do you want to sell your house? Everything, all the conversation around that question, the motivation of what they want to do and why they want to do it. Do you want to list it at a price that will cause it to sell? So that's the whole CMA piece of it. And then the last piece of the discussion is, do you want to choose me as your realtor? And they're getting them to come to a commitment to you. And I let those 3 questions guide my agenda. I don't flip the last question to the beginning or put the middle one at the beginning. I use that format for the discussion.
beautiful. I love that. I'd love to get a little bit more role play here, Gary, in terms of how you would transition. Say you've done some of that rapport building, because you talked about sharing your objective with the clients. Can you show us what that looks like with Megan? So for example, you guys you've had a discussion, you know what she's looking for. Now just share, what does it look like that you want to what is the objective for the appointment, so that you set up the rest of how things are going to go? As we talked about with Wayne, there's a couple of steps you have where you're doing your forward, then is it your presentation?
Then it's the questions, then it's the economic overview, then
Yep.
it's the slide deck.
That slide
then
deck,
it's the
then your
CMA.
CMA. So for you, Gary, you might not be obviously doing the same system as Wayne, but in regards to sharing like your objective for the appointment, what does that kind of sound like typically?
Well, somewhat similar to what I just said, a little bit more eloquently than what I just said, though, in the sense that Megan and I have spent, and her husband or whomever that other owner is, the last 30 minutes talking about what life is, and kids on the street used to play hockey and that sort of thing, just reminiscing, that type of thing, building rapport. What does your future home look like? And the whole time I'm just putting little moments of the conversation in that file box up there, right? Like, or Megan, walk me around your home one more time.
Yeah. And
I'm looking at things, and my friend Ben Osterfeld, who's coming to speak in next month, and Ben years ago had this great time, or this question that he would make sure his agents would get answered. And I say this because it's going to really set the tone for your listing appointment, not presentation, appointment, right? Is he would say to Dylan, who is perhaps one of my selling agents, Dylan, this is the only thing I want you to get answered. What gift that's going to have a meaningful impact are you going to get for them when they close on that house? Now all of a sudden, Dylan's got some homework to do. And when I'm sitting with Megan as a seller, I've got some homework to do, because that gift has to be meaningful. And I can't figure that out by just going through a CMA and landing on the price of 1.49 or whatever we come up with, right? So that's in the back of my mind as well, is I need to really get to know Megan.
Yeah, I'm hearing that would be in your rapport building time, that you're really trying to scuba dive deep on that to figure out what's Megan all about, right? And as you discover that, that's where the connection gets
Yeah.
built.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So to transition into call it the actual sales presentation or the marketing presentation is quite as easy as there will be a moment during that conversation where it just slides right into it. Megan, this is amazing. I did share with you, I'm gonna talk about how we sell homes. Why don't we do that right now? And I'm gonna do that on my laptop if that's okay with you.
Perfect.
And we do. I have, just like Wayne, I have about 20 or so slides, and it just highlights our complete value proposition of all the tools that we use. And I talk about if anyone's ever seen it, I've done my presentation a number of times. It's Ben Kinney's presentation tailored to me in a sense. If you don't know who Ben Kinney is, look him up and you'll figure out quite quickly you'll want to copy that presentation. And it highlights why they would choose us as realtors, or why Megan would choose us as a realtor. It highlights the tools that we use to sell your home. And then most importantly, how we price the home. Because when we open up that book, it has to have some connection, right? And there has to be, call it a method to the madness. And we talk about how we sell homes, Megan, is we use a system called the double five. And what that means is we're going to take 5 homes that are currently on the market that are just like yours, because we got to know what your competition is. And we're going to look at them to see how they compare with your home. And then we're also going to look at 5 homes that are previously sold as close as today's date as possible, because we want to know what that value is. We want to know what buyers are willing to pay for your home. And that's going to help us navigate the price for your home. So I've had that conversation. I've prepped her. I've already set her up for that moment when we open up the booklet and we're going through the comps and we see it. And she knows in the back of her head, and I'm reminding her through that conversation that her home perhaps can't be the 1.5 because everything we're looking at is 1.4, right? And the big question, to circle all the way back, that question that Wayne asked, what do you think your home's valued at 1.5? And he knows, or we know that it should be maybe 1.4. We know we've got some homework to do, either
some educating to do.
Educating.
Yeah.
That's what because two things can happen. We're either way completely off.
Yeah.
Right. And you have to allow yourself to be wrong.
Yeah.
Right. Or there's that education piece. Yeah.
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 I love that. And I want to keep going down the line in terms of how you guys shift now from your presentation about what it is that you do to how you're now presenting the CMA. I love how you bring up the double five, but I want to stay there in a moment of like, you may be wrong, right? And I think that that's okay to acknowledge for a second, because say it is a more unique home or there haven't been good comparables. And when you come in there, and now this is why we do the 2 steps, you're seeing the house in a different light, right? But you still have to make sure that what you're bringing justifies your price, but be open to hearing from the seller's point of view why they believe it may not match their price.
Yeah.
Because if they do know something about the neighborhood that perhaps you don't, that would be disappointing on our end. But nonetheless, you need to make sure that you're open to it so that you aren't missing the ball because I'm the only one that's right here.
Well, there's 2 things there. Is you're walking into a home where Megan and her family have lived for 20 years.
Yeah.
Who's going to know that home in that street better in that meeting?
Yeah.
Trust me, it's not you.
It's not. That's not the reality.
And that took me a little while to figure out. I'm not the smartest person in this room, and I never should be, right? And you should never walk into a listing appointment
with that attitude.
With that
either.
attitude.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to touch on is after you've done your marketing presentation, because those, in my world, those are 2 different things. How we sell homes versus what the home is valued at.
Sorry to interrupt real quick. Would all of you do your marketing presentation prior to the CMA?
Yes.
We're all on the same page with that? Okay.
Okay, good.
Please continue. Gary.
Good. As I get to that last page and I finish up on that last page, I'm looking at Megan. Is there anything in this presentation or anything in this marketing that another realtor said that they would do that I haven't mentioned? Now, you can need to fine tune that if you're the only
that I forgot to mention.
that I
anything,
forgot to mention.
All great ways to say it.
You really need to land on that, and you need to know if she's interviewed other agents, and if not, it's did I forget to mention?
Yeah.
I've never heard a response saying yes.
Yeah.
Never heard it.
Yeah.
Never heard it.
Real quick to interject there, what I love that you're doing with that is the same with what Megan brought up earlier. Like, you bring up the commission. you're controlling how this conversation is going to play out. You're not waiting for it to happen to you, and now you feel like you're almost on the defensive a little bit as you explain why. You're tackling it right ahead. There may have been an agent that promised to do a little bit more, and if they had asked that to you, now you're like, oh well, yeah, but if you just said like, was there anything else that somebody promised that it would do for you that I forgot to mention? And now you're in the driver's seat of how that conversation is going to go a little bit more. The one who asks the questions controls the conversation. So I love that you mentioned that, Gary, because I think that's so key, especially as we look at, okay, we've just finished giving our marketing presentation. Let's make sure they're in line with it. I think there's going to be a few points that you guys have already mentioned, but you're checking in with them as you go through the consultation.
And it's,
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
I just want to finish with that. It's the only moment during that consultative meeting that I feel like I'm presenting. It takes about
Yes.
12 minutes to go through. Outside of that, I'm sitting back and asking as many questions, waiting for answers.
I love that you're genuinely typically coming more consultatively than you are presentation style,
Yeah.
but coming into the moment where you have to show what it is that you do, it is a little bit more of a presentation.
The whole way through the conversation, I'm looking for agreement. I want to build rapport and find agreement with them. And so then it's easier when it comes to the last part of the conversation about them choosing you, because you've already agreed on much together.
Yeah, I like that. Megan, hold on to it for a second there. As you're walking through you're getting prepared now, CMA time.
Yes.
What's your general layout on how you're going to present that CMA to the client? And what's your kind of objective, as you know, we want to educate them, but how do you go about doing that?
I do the same thing that Gary said. I look at both those houses that have sold recently and those that are on the market, and I talk about making sure that they are positioned in the right place in the market.
Perfect.
And I liken it to them choosing to shop for shoes. That buyers do the same thing. They look around and they look for the best product at the best price, and I want them to shine. And that's when it comes to how will we present your house, and how will we bring your house to the market? And that's where I show my value, is how I will help them do this, because often their houses are a mess. I mean, I had a listing last year where the primary ensuite was not even built yet, and it went to the market 2 weeks later. So you can do amazing things, and it's communicating that you will help them, and you will help them get there. So
beautiful. Wayne, for the CMA, as you're now transitioning from your marketing piece, what does that look like for you?
So it's printed. We subscribe to Trendly.
Okay.
So we use a Trendly report. It's nicely come, it's bound.
Also known as Top CMA, if anybody
Yes,
gets the
that's
two
right.
words. Yep.
Yeah, it creates a really nice CMA, and similar to what you guys do, we bring the actives plus the solds. And if I think that if you've told me your house is worth 1.5, I bring the 1.5 solds in there.
Yeah.
So that way, when we get to that point, they can kind of look at, oh, wow, that's what 1.5 looks like.
Yes.
Yeah, 1.5 is 3,500 square feet dressed up to the nines. It's not your house,
Yeah.
right? So they can kind of see that.
say that.
Yeah.
This is all about self-discovery.
Yeah. Self-discovery.
Right. So you're not giving them the thing. It's they're self-discovering their way through this, and you're just flipping through. And the other thing is we mark up the CMA. We highlight, we circle, Marv taught us that was highlight the things that either highlight their house or also that against the comparable properties that it's not superior to.
Yes.
So as they're going through it, what you want them to do is, again, self-discover their way into the price point.
Yeah.
If you've done it right, at the end of it, you go, okay, now having seen all that information, what do you think your home is worth? And they'll generally land right where you want them to land.
I love the idea that you guys mark them up. I do the same thing. I'm circling over there. This isn't just something that I printed off and here you go. I've reviewed this a couple of times. Look at it, it's a little crumpled. I've got my circles, my highlights, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
And I also take the time to find the square footage, because I found that especially on Treb, they don't show the square footage, but it actually is a really important component.
Yeah.
Sellers always overestimate.
Yeah.
Always overestimate. Yeah.
Yeah. So their house is only 2,500, and they're comparing their house to a house that's over 3,000 square feet. It's not the same.
The house that you're going to, and you really should have them for your top comparables as well, because it's $6. Yeah.
Ton of money.
Spend the money, exactly. I love that. So how does in regards to what you're bringing in how you're presenting the CMA, I'd like you guys to go just a little bit deeper, because you're talking about a printed report.
Yep.
Does it have photos of the interior of the houses as well?
Whatever Trendly spits out, it will have an exterior and some interior
And some
photos. Yeah,
interior
and it
photos.
has all the, like, it actually, whatever's online, it'll have it
It'll have it,
populated.
okay. And you show them on the laptop. Gary, what about you? Are you on digital or are you showing them pictures on the?
I use Trendly as well. It's gorgeous. However, if you're not using it, and for years I wasn't, what I found most important is the consumer listing side, so not the broker's full.
Yeah.
Print that off, the consumer side, as well as you can print off the images. And
Yeah.
the images are they're actually more important than the actual listing.
They are,
itself.
yeah.
Because most people, and this is a pure self-discovery thing, they want to see pictures, right? And they can equate to that valuation to the pictures. So if you're not using Trendly, that's fine. Print off the pictures,
Yeah.
for sure. And in that, yeah, I have the listings, the pictures, a 1-page stats sheet, which shows there's really only 4 things that I feel that are important for sellers to see. And that is the inventory that's on the market, what is sold on the market, days on market. And then I explain to them if we're in a seller's market or a balanced market based on the days on market. And outside of that, it's noise. 9 times out of 10, it'll be noise. And
Yeah.
Megan knows I've used to share everything and it was too much. And I realized they really only care about a couple of things, or they can only comprehend a few things at that moment, right?
Yeah. Can one of you dive a little bit deeper in terms of how you're educating them? Like we talked about, we're bringing 5 available, 5 sold. Is there a specific order? Do you start high to low? Do you go low to high? Like in general, just walk us through a little bit more of the nitty gritty of how you're presenting that CMA.
Yeah, I believe the CMA that I've always done, I believe Trendly will do, you can sort it differently. I'll always sort low to high.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of, I think, the nature of how we look at things, I think.
Yeah.
And I'll go through what's on the market, so the competition first, and then we'll look at what's sold. That's really it.
Okay. And now say, I'm going to throw you a wrench here. Now you're at this consultation and you find out that you are in competition. Is there anything that you guys are doing differently, either at the presentation or beforehand, when you know that you're in competition?
I'll hand it off real fast. No, no, because if you're showing up and you're not showing up as a 10, then you're already in trouble, right? So you've got to show up with your best game always.
So if I'm asking that question, I may want to be first at the appointment. And if I can't be first, then I'm going to ask the seller to promise me that they won't sign anything with anybody until I've had a chance to present.
Yeah.
Or if I've presented and they are saying, I'm still meeting realtors after you, I want to keep my commitment. I'm like, absolutely. You know, you're a person of honor and you should keep your commitment when you've made them. I'd ask you again, don't sign any paperwork with the last interview until we've had an opportunity to talk again. So that would be the one thing I would be just checking on. Like I might do it up front in terms of when I present.
And what do you think about offering to call the agents behind you to let them know that the sellers decide to work with you? Do you ever offer something like that?
I've done that, and
Yeah. How did it
it
go?
sounds like fun. It's actually not that much fun. I've called other agents and said, hey, I actually had one under contract and they fired her, and they hadn't signed the contract yet, but the photographer was coming on Monday, and I had to call her and say, hey, listen, the clients they've signed with me, so you should cancel your photographer. It's really it's not as much fun as it sounds like.
No, nor should it be fun, right? We're letting somebody know that we won. But is that something that you find when you're in competition? Is there ever that concern or objection that they're shy about making the phone call, or do you not find that that's really a case?
They like you to make the phone call. If they decided to list with you and they still have other appointments, they will gladly let you call on your behalf.
There you go.
They will. If you offer it, say, hey, do you want me to make those calls for you? I'm happy to do it. And you can just call and let them know. I don't know what you guys thought about that.
I think we're good there. Let's talk about now you've got a more challenging seller that hasn't picked up on your cues of what their house is worth in market value. How do you kind of handle the objection of like, well, my neighbor sold for X and I want to make sure that I'm getting the same?
So I would take them to an experience they've had buying something else other than a house. So when was the last time you shopped for a car? And so when you shopped for a car, Dylan, were you just shopping for the year of the car when you bought the car, or were you looking at other things?
I was looking at the feel of the car, what it
Right.
gave me, the features,
Right.
and the price tag.
Yeah, so the price, you're probably looking at the odometer, how many kilometers
Yeah.
are on it,
Yeah.
right? So, and the package too, right? Because not every car comes the same,
Yeah.
right? You might want a sunroof and leather interior, right? An extra set of snows, it all varies the price, doesn't it, right?
It does.
Right, so listing your home is the same thing. Not every, I mean, I understand that your neighbor's house was bigger than yours, but there's a lot of other factors we take into consideration when we're pricing the home. Just like you did when you were buying a car. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I get that, but I would really like their price.
Yeah, I totally understand. And that's where you kind of go to where the market is, right?
Yeah.
And so, and their motivation to sell the house. And I'd take them along another experience and what happened and what buyers are looking for. Because the other thing is, buyers are super savvy right now, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. They have, with the curtains pulled back from the market, they have every bit of information that we have in front of them. And when they're shopping in a particular neighborhood, they know every sale. They might know the market better than me, right? And they know that when your house is listed at 1.5 and it's listed at and it's worth 1.3, they know that, and they won't come and see it.
Yeah.
Because they're smart. They're savvy. I don't know if there's.
Yeah. Anything else to add, or is everybody kind of on the same page with that one?
No, yeah, on the same page. I'll circle it. I don't have the script repertoire that Wayne has. However, I'll circle it back to buyers are as educated as sellers, and they have all that same information, so they'll see the difference in the valuation.
Yeah. And do you guys ever speak to maybe opportunity lost of what it means to take an overpriced listing, or what it would mean for them to be out there at a high price?
That's an excellent point. So we addressed that in the marketing presentation.
Oh, I love that.
And I'll show them that when the preface is we need to make sure that we price your home at the absolute best price possible so we can get the best value for your home. And what I show them is a chart on when homes are priced well, we're going to get an offer within the first 7 days. And then it kind of goes down the chart. When homes are priced a little off and you're just getting showings and no offers, then we can be off as much as 3 to 5%. And they just kind of walk their way down that. So that's that opportunity loss, perhaps. Yeah, for sure.
I often say to them as well that price is the single biggest decision that they're going to make. And it's worth having the conversation now and talking about it, because it's more important than flashy videography. It's more important than fantastic, even photographs. The price is the most, and we need to be, and I say to them, we need to be very, very sure. And we can revisit this the week before we go to the market and revisit our strategy, but it is the single biggest, most important piece that you need to decide on. And to be very careful before you go with an overpriced listing.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes I've had them where they are absolutely, absolutely insistent. And then I pace them at potentially it could, and then I say to them, I may be wrong. And I'm prepared to say I'm wrong, but it could work out this way. You will find people coming to look and not offering.
Yeah.
But, and then you go with what they say. I don't want to lose it overpriced. Unless it's like drastically overpriced.
There you go.
Well, the question I asked them too is, when you see a listing sitting on market month after month, what's the question you immediately ask yourself? What's wrong with the
Yeah.
house? Is there anything wrong with your property? No, there's nothing wrong with the property. What you've actually done is you self-stigmatized your property. And that is the issue when you overprice something and you sit on market month after month after month.
Yeah.
You actually become a declining asset. And that's really not what you want, is it, Mr. Seller?
Yeah. I love this. And with price being so important, I want to sit in it just for another minute longer. Let's say we are in competition and the seller says, well, I have had another professional realtor came in and they said that I can get my 1.5.
So that I would ask the question, okay, did the other realtor do a first step? Did they come through twice? Did they come through once? And I would go down that road and say, I actually don't know how they could have come to that number sitting in your home and doing all those calculations as they've walked through your house the one time.
Yeah.
I don't know how that you can actually do that valuation. That's why I come second step. I make sure that I've done all the appropriate math. And that I would kind of maybe just throw that guy under the bus a little bit, right? That's probably where I would go.
Well, reframe it a little bit
Yeah.
to give you the real credit that I think you deserve there is what you guys have mentioned a couple times now is the work that you're doing beforehand in terms of showing your value. That's setting you up for when an objection comes, you can lean back and be like, well, we've done this, this, and this, which shows why our answer is over here, right? Like, how could we come to that answer if we didn't do all this pre-work?
Well, and asking, is there a listing I missed? Is there
Yeah.
something in somebody else? Did somebody else bring a for sale or something else that I've missed along the way? Because I'd love to know. Did he bring all the same comps?
Yeah.
And then go from there. Yeah.
Anything else to add in terms of, okay, a seller has said, another agent told me I can get a higher price.
I just circling back to what Wayne said, I can't reiterate that enough, is having the same information, or is it different information?
Mhm.
And how does that align with your property? And apart from that question, the time and all that conversation you have beforehand, it is eliminating 99% of the objections or any questions that may come up.
Mhm.
So that's why you need to invest in that time to show them your value, and building that rapport is showing them value as well, right?
Yeah.
Don't discount that. That's probably that is the most important piece here. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I also say to them that the day the house goes to the market, you're hiring me to defend your price.
Mhm.
And we have this discussion now at the kitchen table where we may be not perfectly aligned, but when we go to the market, I'm on your side and I need to know how to defend your price. So if they are insistent on 1.5,
Yeah.
I put it in their lap and I say, okay, so tell me where the extra 100,000 is. Am I missing something? Because I'm going to defend your price.
Yeah.
And if they say we are backing onto the park and we know that the park is more valuable, then I go, okay, I hear you. They need to feel heard.
Yeah.
That
I think that that's a great script that everybody should include, is that knowledge to them to say like, hey, we may not be perfectly aligned right now. As we're having this discussion about pricing, this is the discussion. I want to make sure you guys are seeing the comparables, you understand what's going on in the market, but I want you to know that once we're out there on the market, whatever price you choose to be at, I'm defending you 100%. We're marketing for the moon. I just want to make sure that I'm doing my due diligence and letting you know where you sit currently in the market from, as I would perceive with my experience, how a buyer is going to perceive you. Yeah.
Well, I think that's also why the importance of bringing the overall, like the stats. Where is the market
Yeah.
going? Are we in it?
Yeah.
Are we declining? Are we escalating?
Yeah.
Like them understanding that where days on market are going, especially if prices are dropping and inventory is creeping up, they need to understand that this is a tough market and you've really got to price it right out of the bat,
Yeah.
or you're going to sit, and sitting's not fun.
Do you ever have a tougher discussion about, okay, now, Mr. Seller, let's put your buyer hat on for a minute. Would you spend 1.5 on the house that doesn't have the den or whatever? Hopefully you've got a tangible that you can point to, when you could buy one at that price that does have the den or does have the pool or whatever. Do you like that approach of doing a direct comparison like that and asking them to put on a buyer hat, or is that something you try to stay away from?
That's a good conversation to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's tough though. There's a lot of emotion there. And I think that's the part that they love their homes.
Yeah.
They're very house proud. They want to get the most amount of money for it. And we have to acknowledge that when we're sitting with them. Say, I understand. You love your home. You've been here 20 years. You guys have invested a lot of money in it. And there's a lot of equity, hard-earned equity in this property. And my job is to protect that equity for you.
Yeah.
And my job is to position your property so it's going to sell and not sit. And then you can kind of take them back. Circling back to the original motivation.
Yeah.
You want to be in your bungalow by December.
Yeah.
Right. And I want this. So tell me what that looks like again. And you can kind of future pace them to that.
Yeah.
To the point where otherwise, like being on market, being for sale is it's one of the three worst things that happens in your life. There's divorce, death, and selling your house. Like it's true. And that you can say that to people. It is one of the worst three things you can go through. And some people are doing multiple things at once. They've got death and divorce, plus the move is on top of it, right? So it is not a fun thing. And for people who haven't moved in 20 years, it's like, this is not a fun process. And I tell people that, this is not a fun process.
Yeah.
Getting to the other side, your life is going to be better.
Yes.
But getting there is not moving. It just sucks. And our job is to make the transition as painless as possible. But yeah.
Heard at the beginning of that as well goes back to what you said at the very start. I want to build trust. I want to show that I care, and I want to show them that I've got the way forward, that I've got the answers. And when you talk about, like, I understand that you've got a lot of equity here. You've been living in this, and it's my job to protect it. Well, there you go. I care, and you can trust me. This is how we're going to get to that next step. I think that if we can come back to those mindsets and those clear goals that you said at the beginning, and all of our conversation then builds off of that, then you're coming back to the outcome of the goal, which is ultimately getting the contract signed. So now you've done your consultation, you've done your marketing pitch, you've done your CMA. Hopefully we're agreed at a price. how do you then pivot to getting the paperwork signed? Is there anything that you say in terms of transition? Do you ask a question? What does that generally look like for you guys?
The big piece there is there's two additional sheets that I have that I haven't mentioned yet. And then one is called the seller's net sheet.
Yes.
And this is really, really important because at least on my sheet, I'll have the breakdown of the sale of their home from a financial perspective. And I'll start with the legal costs plus HST. Then I have my commission in there plus HST, and it's already pre-filled in the rate that we offer, and your closing, some of the other closing costs. So it's all right there. So when it comes to any objection or anything like that around commission, it's already there, and I just walk them right through it. Any questions here? No, this looks great.
That's perfect. I've skipped a step there. I want to talk about commission. As Megan brought up, you bring that right up in your consultation there, in your presentation. When do you bring that up?
When I have, if I feel that they're at the place to sign paperwork,
Yep.
it actually, the paperwork presents it, comes to the commission line, and then we talk about it.
Okay.
And I'm very clear, I try and go in very clear about what I will charge them, and I take into consideration, is the house tenanted? And I always say to them, if it's tenanted, I ask for the full 5%. It may sell in a week, but it may take 6 months. So in those kind of, are they going to be buying with me? And then I will give them a bit of a break. So it's, I'm very clear in what I will charge them, and then I explain and I defend. I defend my commission
Okay,
that way.
perfect. Wayne, same question. When
Yeah.
do you bring it up in the consultation, and how does that usually look?
I don't bring it up until the paperwork.
Until the
Kind of
paperwork.
like Megan is.
Okay.
At the end of the consultation, I looked them in the eye and said, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I would be honored to have the opportunity to assist you with the sale of your property. Do you have any questions before we go ahead and sign some paperwork, and you can put me to work for you? And then you have the paperwork there, and you have and if the commission comes up at that point, like Megan says, you can negotiate based on if they're gonna buy with you, or you're gonna either they're. And what was it? Price is only an issue in the absence of value,
Absolutely.
right? So if
yeah.
you've done all the things that you've done all along the way and brought value, and you've demonstrated you care and all that, by the time you get to the commission, they're just like,
They hate you.
where
Yeah.
do I sign?
You've got to get
Where
it
do I
up.
sign?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
So-
best commission objection handler is just showing your value prior to the
All the way
objection even
through.
being brought up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they may ask, will you do it for less? That's not an objection, that's a question.
Yes.
The answer is no, this is my commission. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people, like when they go online, it's like top 10 questions you should ask your realtor when you're hiring a realtor.
Yeah.
Number one is like asking about commission. So I think they feel obligated. I gotta ask
Yeah.
about commission. I don't know. Google told me I had to ask about commission. So
Totally.
they ask.
And there's some of them that if you do such a great job at presenting your value, they almost feel sheepish asking that question, like, I gotta ask, can you do it
So-
for less? Google told me, can you do it for less?
I took a listing the other day and it was 5% and then 2.5% for the co-op. And she sent me a note and she said, Wayne, we're ready to go ahead, but 7.5% seems a little high. Can you do it for less? And I was like, good news.
Yeah, I can. I had that same question the other day. That's so funny. That's so funny.
In the new Tracer Rico guide, there are a couple of pages in there that I have found very helpful in dealing with buyers and sellers this year, because it actually lays out what we do. And it's worth taking the time to use the Rico guide to defend what you're going to do, because they think you're just going to, I don't know, sell a house and pocket $30,000. That Rico guide, I think we can use to our benefit.
And I could, yeah. So
It
Gary,
does,
I don't know if
yeah.
you wanted to take it to another place, but just to come back to you for a second, it sounds like you bring it up as you present the net sheet, maybe prior to getting to the paperwork.
Well, yeah, so there's a thing here. So I would always ask the question, is there anything that you need to ask me, or is there something that I missed throughout our presentation, throughout our meeting here? And the number one question was always commission.
Yeah.
And I remember the seasoned people in the room today or online will know Zig Ziglar, and Zig Ziglar has a line, and it just hit me so hard one day. If you're presenting or you're in a meeting and a question comes up about your presentation, Zig's comment is that question is an indicator that you didn't present something throughout your meeting, or you didn't do it clearly enough. And like commission. And that's where that seller's net sheet came from.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, I still ask that question. Is there anything in here that you need to ask me or talk about or get clarity on? And it's 9 times out of 10, no. Perfect. Let's talk about signing the paperwork.
Yeah.
And we just transition into that. I mentioned 2 sheets. Oh, the other sheet that I knew I had 2 sheets. The other sheet that we have, and here's what people want. It's that, you know, if you put together 10 things that people want from the sale of their home, the number one thing is clarity, meaning what happens in a timeline perspective of how I sell my home. And I put together a timeline. Today we signed the paperwork. In 5 days from now, the stager's going to come through, or a contractor, the painter, whomever, and you just kind of spill it out for them. Then we come to market, and what does that look like? And then every 7 days, we do a marketing review of the home and the number of showings and who's looked at it and the feedback. And that's just a piece of paper. That piece of paper has won me so many listings just based on that.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's in the power of here's what comes next.
Here's what comes next.
Right.
That's what people want to know.
They want to know that question, right? And the better you can do that in all facets of your business. I first learned that when negotiating offers and telling buyers, this is how the negotiation is going to go. We're going to do this. They're likely going to do this. It's going to come back to this, and then we'll end up here. And as it would happen, they would say, wow, this is going exactly as you said. Like, we're on track. This is perfect. But you apply that at a listing appointment or a consultation and look at the power that you've got. Because not only now am I going back to like showing them the way forward, I'm literally showing them the way forward.
Yeah.
And I can share that one of the things that our team brings along is an actual calendar that we leave with them with that same information on there. Here's the day we go live. Here's the photography. Here's where we check in, and yada, yada, yada. And I think that, again, it's just a physical, I'm showing you the path forward.
The other thing you can do when you're asking those rapport building questions is you can actually take out a calendar. Like when they tell you, okay, here's where I'd like to be in my house. I'd like to be in the new house by X. You can actually flip open your actual calendar and start working your way backward with them.
Yes.
Okay, so if you'd like to be in your new home by July, our average days on market, you know, like we're 60 to 90 days to close. We need to have your house on, and that kind of gets them into that. You know, they're already now visualizing listing with you.
And to make sure that you actually serve them at the level and achieve the goals they're looking for, because they don't know that stuff.
No.
Right? They don't understand. They just say, oh, I'll be in at this time, and that's how it's all going to work out. You have to educate them on that timeline, and you might actually solve a couple problems before they even arise just by doing that, right? Yeah, perfect. I'd like to open it up for you guys that are in the room. If there's any questions that you have 3 people here that are going to be very happy to answer them. If there's anything that you wanted to see from a listing consultation that you didn't get, please think of those and raise your hands. I'll gladly ask them.
It's not a question, more a comment.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's not really a question, but a comment. I remember being a part of a marketing / sales / business development department of a major corporation, tens of thousands of agents, or sorry, not agents, employees. And I remember learning through, you know, what it takes to win over a client. The first and foremost thing is be organized. You know, of course, you have to be, you know, you have to know your, you know, your products, your services, all of these things. That's part of the training. But as a person, if you're not organized, then the company will shun you, will look at you very differently on how successful you can become. And if we flip that to real estate, this is your own business. This is bread and butter for your family, for yourself. So if you take the same outlook on, you know, taking all that information that the panel has provided and take the organization, be organized, be like scrutinize, you know, your scheduling, your, you know, what comes next and all your organizations, then I think you can't but be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And systematize everything. Like if you're going to do a pre-list package, have it printed up. Like don't make it specific to the seller. It's a pre-list package. It's a form. Everything should be in a file in your office. So you just grab everything, throw it in a thing, and go. Like, and even your listing presentation, other than the CMA, should be stock. Like that just makes your life easier. The more you customize it, the harder it gets. So we have everything pre-printed. Like our pre-list is done. It's a thing. I can walk in the office, I grab the folder, and I'm out the door. I can be in a pre-list. I can be in an appointment in half an hour.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here, 1 second. Sorry, just 1 second. I want to make sure you got the microphone there. Here you go.
So you make a package for ourselves and for the seller. What do you just drop off with the sellers?
Wayne, you've got a great voice, but just in case for the people online. So the question there was about your pre-list package,
Yeah.
both for what you're dropping off and what you're.
So the pre-list package is basically our slide deck
Yep.
that we present at the listing appointment in a print form. It also has the KWRC satisfaction guarantee in it. It has our sales stats in it. And it has, there's something else and I'm forgetting what it was.
Which
Gary's picture. Yeah. Yeah. Call Gary. There's something else, but I mean, you can tailor it. You can put postcards. Oh, you can put a sample feature sheet. Like there's all kinds of stuff. The pre-list is your opportunity to pre-sell yourself. That should be when we're like, it's all about us.
Yeah.
And then when we get to the listing appointment, obviously to Gary's point, you've got to do the marketing piece,
Yeah.
like the slide deck, but everything else should be about them.
You want to know a great one that I'll share is as you're sharing like past feature sheets. So an example of your marketing, attach the review from the client of that house that you sold at the
even
same
better.
time.
Yep.
Now they're hearing directly from a client that they're like, wow, this is pretty. And it's, oh my God, Dylan was great. They cared about everything. You know, they looked after me. The process was smooth. We got top dollar, whatever that might be.
Yeah, testimonials definitely need to be
Yeah,
in there
be in that
somewhere, whether
package for
wherever
sure.
it is, but
Yeah.
have it all just done and ready to go.
Pardon me? Oh, appropriate number of testimonies they have in there. Yeah, 3 to 5, I think would be way more. Yeah.
So lean on,
Yeah.
lean on the brokerage testimonial.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to go back to commission. There are some sellers that do want to negotiate commission. And it's somehow for them very important. They don't just necessarily accept what you say. And the one tip that has really helped me, I think, is I don't negotiate in half and quarter points. It's very easy to just go from 5, let's for example, 5 to 4.5. And I'm sure Heather looks at some of my trades and goes, Megan, where did you get 4.76 from? Because we can so easily give away half a point of our commission, so easy.
Yeah.
And when you add it up, it's thousands. And
Yeah.
don't do that. Go and yes, it's okay to negotiate because that's what we do. But negotiate and say, you know what, absolutely. What about if we go 4.7, 4.8? Don't do quarters and halves. It's too easy.
I like that insight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just give up a little, and then it makes them feel like, and then of course, I love the new Schedule A on our listing agreements where you lay out what you're prepared to pay for and remind people of the value that you're going to bring to this. So if it comes up in commission, you can circle back and go, don't forget, I'm going to pay for a cleaner, I'm going to pay for carpet cleaning, and I'm going to pay for staging.
Yeah.
And you remind them of the value you're bringing so that you're not so quick to give up that half a point and not defend it.
Another question here from Jonathan.
On your presentation on commission, do you total up your commission and negotiate, or do you separate between cooperating and listing and say, the cooperating is not mine, it's not ours. Our portion is this, and from there, I need to negotiate, or you're trying to negotiate with me.
Every part we negotiate from now is my commission. So, and if you've really gone to the effort of showing your value, then they are connecting that every piece that you're giving up is coming from your pocket. It's not coming from the buyer agent. And so it's easier to defend because you've shown your value.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it always comes back to being able to show the value. I'll give
Yeah.
this one you guys to hold on to. Show your value to the client so that it makes that much easier. Like you said in your discussion there, Wayne, it's only becomes an issue in the absence of value.
Yeah.
Right. We have to make sure that we are articulating and they are also perceiving that value from us. And then it becomes kind of a non-issue. Other than, like you said, there are going to be some people that will, it's an ask, not an objection.
Yep.
Or there'll be the people that are like, no, I want to negotiate this. I want to see what I can get as well.
And I think that we need to change our mindsets on that. We get offended when people negotiate with us. It's normal. It's business. And to not get offended and not be thrown off our game is to just look them squarely in the eye and negotiate.
Yeah.
And defend yourself with confidence, eh?
It's actually a good thing because it means they're interested in doing business with you.
Yes.
Because if they don't ask the questions, if they don't, then you're dead.
They're
You're
checked
you're
out.
like,
Yeah,
"You have any
yeah.
questions for me? Nope, I'm
Nope.
good. No, I'm good. bro. You want to sign some paperwork? Nope, I'm
Nope, good.
Action is feedback.
It is.
Yes,
totally.
yes, yeah. I think that that's a great point, that we should not take these things personally.
No.
We don't want to get worked up as
Yep.
well, that, oh my God, they don't perceive my value. They don't think I'm worth it. Svetlana, a question for you there.
Yes, I have a question for Wayne. When you give a scenario, what you show client what his house is a certain amount of money, and you show comparables, and it's clearly it doesn't cost as much as client want to sell house for, but you have not very maybe intelligent person and very stubborn, and they still think what his or her house is unique, and they stick to own amount of money. How would you answer to this question?
Ultimately, we have the choice as to whether or not we want to take the listing. So if you want to take an overpriced listing, we know it's not going to sell. So you're going to we spend a lot of money on staging. We spend a lot of money on photography. We spend a lot of money marketing somebody's house. That's a lot of money out of our pocket for a house that potentially won't sell. So you've got two options. You can walk away and say, you know what, we're just not in alignment, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Like, my job is ultimately to get your home sold and get you moved into the bungalow by December. That's my job. At the price that you want to list your home at, I honestly don't see it selling. So I wish you luck, and I'm just not the right realtor for you. The other option is you take it at the price they want it, and you agree that when we come to this date, 3 weeks from now, if we don't have an offer on the table, and you can write it right into the listing, we're dropping the price to my
Mhm.
price, and see if you can do that with them.
And I also think it's tied to motivation. If they have communicated that they really, really are going to sell and they want to sell,
Mhm.
then I think you can navigate that. But if you're uncertain as to how serious they are about
Yeah.
selling, then I would be cautious, because they will then pull their house off the market and try again next year. But if they've made a commitment that they're going to move by the end of the year, you may have a rocky road getting there, but
Yeah.
then you're sure about the motivation. That motivation question is very
It's
important.
so important. I agree. And I think that we talked about some future happiness, like future pleasure, but we didn't really touch on future pain to help
Yeah.
discover motivation, right? What does it look like if your home doesn't sell and
Yeah.
we're still here in 6 months?
Yeah.
What does that look like to you? And if they say, I'm still here, it's
Yeah.
okay. Well, then you've got somebody that's not very motivated, and likely, as Wayne's talking about, you have the right in your business to say, this is not going to be a great decision for me. This is a business decision. I'm not going to take this listing. If they say on the flip side that, oh my God, that would be the worst thing in the world, like my family's not going to be in the right spot, well, then there's some motivation that you can work with there. And now you just got to keep educating to get to that spot. A couple more questions. Anybody in the room, please ask any questions that you have, but I've got a few from the coaching group. And one of them came through being, do you always pay for staging or photography costs? So as a broader question.
I
What-
answered that already.
Yeah, you did. You alluded to it for sure. But because every team, every individual agent, everybody approaches their business differently. But we'd just like to know, typically, what do you guys include in your services? What are the options, and how do you decide if that's something that you want to do even? Because I know our team in general, there's things where we roll out the full package, and then there's other listings where maybe because something is overpriced or it's unique, we might scale back on what we're offering. So just curious, what do you typically include, and what does that look like?
So we do a pre-inspection. We pay for cleaning up to a certain dollar value. We'll do windows and insides, whatever. We pay for photography. We also, and again, this is where I like the two-step, because I know walking into a house, if it doesn't need a lot of staging, I can give a little on. Well, we should take. I can be negotiable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can be.
Yeah, your
flexible on it
services can
because
be
this
negotiable
is
based on what
usually-
you're offering.
Like, we'll just
Yep.
use it up for like very little. If it's a full stage, that's a whole other animal.
Yeah.
So yes, we pay for all that. And then the seller understands that we pay for the first 30 days. If it runs longer than 30 days, they are now on the hook to pay for any staging costs after that rolling into the second month. And if they terminate for any reason, they pay us back the full staging cost plus photography.
Awesome. So
So we'll eat the home inspection, whatever marketing we've done, the cleaning, that side, which normally ends up around $1,000. But anything beyond that, the they're compensating us for.
Okay.
Home inspection as the
Pre-inspection.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you do that on every listing.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
and there's something really, really important to what Wayne said there. They'll pay for the first 30 days of staging, which now creates some motivation back
That's
to the
right.
pricing or the
Mhm.
valuation of the home. That is so important.
Especially when you share the staging costs with them.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
By the way, it'll be $8,000 on day one, on the second. Yeah, I don't, there's no secrets for a staging cost. There's,
Yeah.
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 You know, this is what,
No,
no, it doesn't say what it costs, but it say
Yeah.
Megan will cover the staging costs for the first month, and thereafter the seller will pick up the costs, but
Yeah.
then they know what that is
Yeah.
and how much that will be. I personally believe in staging. I think that to go back to the listing presentation, I don't know which training it was, bold, but positioning it, the price, and then the presentation.
Mhm.
You can, I say to them that presenting it as nicely as possible will give you the highest price. And I think staging plays into that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You
Yeah.
feel it as agents when you walk through a home that's been staged versus one that hasn't been staged. And same with homes that, even when you're looking at photos, like we recently listed a condo. It's not live yet, but the photography's been done. And we didn't do any wall artwork because the seller had requested that they didn't want that stuff done because they just painted, didn't want any updates. And sure enough, on the photos, the walls look really bare. And all it needed was a couple of prints, which our team buys in stocks. Like we keep that stuff as a side service that we provide, which we can talk about another time as well.
So going back to Wayne's statement on the reimbursement of costs, and we've discussed this, but just for everybody else
Yeah.
here and listening, how do you approach getting your reimbursement? What do you go through? And then what if there's pushback if they don't want to pay it?
This is in the case of if they've now terminated a listing and you guys have spent the money on staging, photography, all that. How do you have it in your contract, and what is, just in general, what does that look like?
So, I mean, it's in the contract. I think what you can do is, if they've reached out to you and said, okay, we are going to be terminating the listing and we're moving onwards, you can send them an invoice and you just don't give them the mutual release until they give you a check.
Yeah.
Right? That's the hammer you have, is like, okay, I'll release you when you've given me that. Now, luckily we've not had that, touch wood.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, because we've had people compensate us for staging. I had one down in the city and it was an $8,000 stage. And it was a whole house, and 2 months in, they decided, the parents decided they were moving back into the house. They didn't want to sell it. So I said, okay, you're getting and they were cool about it. They were like, all right. And that was the cost of staging the house,
Yeah.
and they paid it. So, but yeah, I don't know, Christian. I mean, ultimately, if you did it the other way, small claims, you'd have to go after them for. But I think the thing is, you just hold back the termination until they give you a check.
Yeah, and be up clear with that's in the contract at the beginning, that the
Yeah.
listing won't be terminated until the check has been delivered.
I don't know if
Yeah.
you guys have anything to add to that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Say perhaps you agree to pay for something upfront based on them selling it, and you're gonna get paid back once it sells. How does that paperwork look like in terms of direction to lawyers?
Christine, are you referring to, Wayne just invested $8,000 into staging. How does he get that paid back once it sells?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, so I would do it. There's a couple of things there that we could do is have the appropriate commission to cover that. That's one way. The other way is you can create a contract, or on the TIS, the form that we use to submit our paperwork, that they agree to submit X amount of dollars to cover that cost. The cleanest way to do it, in my opinion, is to have the appropriate commission. So we
Yeah.
can have commissions at, and I don't mind sharing this, is we can have commissions, say, at 10% plus a fixed dollar amount.
Yeah.
I use 10% because it's so above and
Yep.
beyond what anyone
Absolutely.
would ever charge. So you can
Speak
use
for
the
yourself.
steps. Yeah, fair enough. I take that back, Dylan. And that's why we like the Silver Nagel team. Yeah, you can have Percentage plus fixed amounts as well
Yeah.
on commission
I-
agreements.
So you put in your commission plus, say the stage was 8,000, so plus 8,000, and your cooperating payout is still the same on there, whatever you guys had determined. But so that 8,000 would come directly back to the listing brokerage at the time of closing, and then it's in a contract.
Yeah. And as I think about
Probably
it,
the
that's-
easiest way to do it.
That's probably the cleanest way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah, say exactly. Yep. Yep. And then if you need, if it's for something else, like I've lent clients money for their deposit, for example. That I asked a lawyer to give me like a one-page contract that we signed up. I submitted it with their lawyer, and then it says in there to be paid out on closing, that I got the money back. Usually plus a little, depending on
Yeah.
the terms or whatever.
Good
Yeah.
stuff.
Any other questions for these guys? Let me see if I've got anything left over. Honestly, you guys did a fantastic job. I want to thank you so much for your time today. Beautiful. So we did record this. I hope that you took amazing notes while you were in here, because honestly, even if you didn't, you can go back and watch the recording and really from beginning to end, just take notes on everything that these guys did. And that's your process. That's your process. You guys gave us a lot of little nuggets on things that you say, ways that you determine motivation, help build value. And I think if we all just walked through that and plugged it into a lot of the stuff that we're already doing, our game just went up, just elevated a big step. So again, thank you very much, everybody.